Hey guys, so recently a lot of you, and by that I mean the voices in my head, has been asking me what to play against this Sicilian defense. So I figured I would make a video on the wing gambit, but since there is a lot of theory, I would split it into more videos. And in today's video, we are going to be looking at the most common mistakes by black and the most played lines, which leads to some really cool traps. So e4, c5, b4, this is the wing gambit, and we are only going to be looking at the accepted line in this video. So c captures on b4, and in this position I suggest you continue with knight to f3. There is actually a bunch of ways how you can even start the wing gambit, but I figured by looking at the lichess database, with this move order, black players are really prone to walk into traps. So here knight to c6 is the most played move, and we can continue with pawn to d4, and in this position I would like to branch it into two variations. The first move I would like to consider is pawn to d5. This is the most played move and also the most correct one, and then the secondary move is pawn to e6. So this is what I would like to discuss today. Let's start with pawn to d5. Here we are going to capture this pawn, they will recapture with their queen, and we can now push pawn to c4, hitting the queen. Most guys here are going to capture with the en passant rule, but there is also another move which I would like to show you, and that is queen to e4 check. And they tend to really mess it up quickly in this line. We are going to block the check with our dark square bishop. And here bishop to g4 is the most played move, looks really appealing to create this spin, looks like some sort of pressure is going on here with all these threats, but in reality black is almost lost here. We are going to continue with knight to d2, hitting the queen, protecting our knight, and in this position here comes the blunder. Bishop captures on f3 is the most played move, which is a losing mistake. We are going to recapture the bishop, not the queen, remember that. And here black really needs to be very careful, and they need to play some sort of weird move like queen to f5 to be able to run away. But of course most guys are going to play some natural move like knight to f6 or pawn to e6, a simple development, but that is going to result in a queen loss. So let's see this quickly. Pawn to e6. We are going to start with bishop to d3. Now the queen has only one square, which is g4. And after pawn to h3, here they need to make a decision. They can either capture this pawn or run to h5. Well, if they capture the pawn, then rook to h2 traps the queen immediately. And if they run to h5, here remember and notice the queen would be potentially able to escape this way, and that's why we need to throw in this move, pawn to d5. Now usually they capture this pawn, and pawn to g4 traps the queen and it is lost. But if you see that they play something else, and namely this knight to e5, now just know that you don't even need to worry about trapping their queen, because you are getting to their king actually. So you can go queen to a4 check, king moves, and here long castling. And this position is like almost plus 10 for white, because, well, there is just too much stuff aiming in this direction. Alright guys, let's go back. So this was the line with queen to e4 check. Now let's see this en passant. But just to remind you what happened, in this line we went d4, they continued with pawn to d5, we captured the pawn, they recaptured with the queen, and pawn to c4 was played. So here most people are going to capture with the en passant rule, and we are going to recapture with our knight, hitting the queen. And in this position queen to a5 is the correct move and is most played one. But there is also the other move, which is queen back to d8. And that would result in a losing position for black once again, but I'm not going to include that in this video, but feel free to check out the study, link in the description. Let's see the main line, and that is queen to a5. Here we have this sneaky move, rook to b1, and it looks like we are just blundering because our knight is unprotected. So queen captures is the most played move. It is also a check, so we need to block it with our bishop, but trust me, this is exactly what we are going for. Here queen to a3, that is the only square for the queen, and we are going to continue with pawn to d5. And this is the position where if black wants to survive, they need to let go of this knight. And they have to play like pawn to e6, but that's not the human nature. Of course, they just want a piece for free and they want to stay up a piece. So they will be trying to preserve this knight of theirs, and knight to b8 is the most played move here. But basically any other knight move is going to result in a losing position for them. But let's just see this one as it is the most played one. Here we can continue with queen to c2. And with this move we have two threats. First one is capturing on c8, which would be a checkmate. And then there is another threat, and that is bishop to b4, which would actually trap their queen. So because we have these two really strong threats, black's position is on the verge of collapsing and they cannot do anything to prevent them from losing material or getting checkmated. So usually what is played is bishop to d7, stopping the checkmate, but here we can hit them with bishop to b5. And it's funny, but in this position most guys are going for knight to f6, which leads to this checkmate. And then the other move is if they capture the bishop, that walks to the same checkmate. So what are they supposed to do? Well, some guys try to go for this knight to a6, but after that we are going to capture this bishop, and after that we capture, rook captures on b7 with check. The king needs to go back, and here comes queen to c6, and there is an unstoppable checkmate with queen to d7. And what if they don't even play bishop to d7 here? Well, then the other most played move is knight to d7. But in this variation, there is simply bishop to b4 and their queen is trapped. So this is a really nasty trap, and what's really fascinating about it is that you can get this by following the most played move by black pieces. Alright, let's go back. So we've been exploring the variation with them playing this pawn to d5 as their move 4. Now let's have a look what to do if they play pawn to e6, which is the second most played move. Here you are going to continue with pawn to a3. This is a typical win gambit move because we actually want to get rid of our a and b pawns in order to have our pieces really opened up, ready to attack. And the majority of your opponents are going to accept this pawn. And after that we are going to push pawn to d5. Well, in this position there is one correct move for black to play, and that is queen to f6, counterattacking our rook on this diagonal. But guess how many people found this move? It was 13 out of like 500 games. So you're not going to be facing this a lot, but if you see this move queen to f6, just know that you need to continue with pawn to c3, blocking this attack. But anyways, most people here are going to simply exchange the pawns like this. And after that, well, their knight is hit, and most guys are going to play knight to b8. I don't know what's up with these guys, but they just love to undevelop their knights to b8. Alright, in this position we are already winning, and the stockfish is highly suggesting the move bishop to c4, following it up with a bunch of developing moves, which leads to really hundreds of variations, and that's why I'm going to propose another move, and the move is pawn to d6. Now with this move we are throwing away like a half of our advantage according to stockfish, but on the bright side, in this variation black will have to find a series of the only moves, and in the end they will have to sacrifice their queen. So let's see this. Now in this position, finally people are realizing that queen to f6 needs to be played, but not all of them. Some people here blunder with a normal looking developing move, something like knight to f6 or a similar move is a losing blunder because of queen to e2 check. And now, well, they need to block this check with something, and that will be a free piece for us. So that would be losing. Queen to f6 is what got to be played. And here I suggest you continue with rook captures on a3. In this position, they get an opportunity to get rid of this annoying pawn, which they should capture with their bishop. It is the only move. But after here, we are going to play bishop to g5. And in this position, once again, there is only one correct move for them. And now this is a little bit of a silly move, if you ask me. But it is bishop to b4 check. And after we block it with our knight, now they are supposed to capture this rook and just give up the queen for a bishop and rook. And in this position, the stockfish is saying this is equal. But we have a queen and they don't. So I would prefer white pieces in this position. Anyways, I don't think anybody would play this except the agent Smith. I believe everybody here in this position would rather move their queen out of the danger. So funny thing is that actually most people here play queen to e6 check. But this just hang the queen because of rook to e3. Anyways, what if they move somewhere else? Well, the queen needs to be in touch with this bishop because we are already threatening it with our queen. So I would say queen to g6 seems like a logical move. But here comes our rook to e3. Let's say they would block it with their bishop. And here knight to c3, a developing move. And there is actually one game in the Lee chess database that reached this position and black continued with knight to f6. Once again, a logical move trying to obscure this attacker on the pinned piece. But look at this. Rook captures on e7. King recaptures and now bishop to d3 hitting the queen. Queen has only one square, which is h5. And after that, knight to d5 check. And after the king moves, knight to f4 traps the queen. Amazing how every variation results in a queen loss for black. Alright guys, I think this is probably enough for this first video. Stay tuned for upcoming videos about the win gambit, where we will explore more variations. And yeah, well, have fun, take care, and bye.